And we're live, back again, folks. This is Lit Literature. Your host, JP, aka The Demon, and your usual suspects here to discuss, finally, Wind Through the Keyhole. Mm-hmm. The in-between, I guess, book 4.5 of The Dark Tower. Introduce yourself, guys.
Andrew.
All right, the captain broadcasting to you live from Debaria. I just got into town, and I'm a little taken aback because there's a lot of killings going on, and a grown-up just told me what a diddlestick was, so I'm a little shocked.
Did you use it?
Well,
You're positive it wasn't a Pontiac shifter.
Yeah.
you could use that as a diddlestick too.
I thought that was a magic wand.
All sorts of things can be used.
Yeah, I know. You
Anything
put
could be
the
a
Pontiac
magic wand.
shifter into the
It
pail
really
bucket.
is. It really is magic.
Jeez.
You got the Hitman here. Join a green line.
Oh, nice.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Green
and
line,
Brett, the director, enjoying a yellow liquid.
Cheers.
I
I
believe
believe
the
that
snake
is
juice
a
diet.
very tasty flavored cider.
So
Yum,
you,
yum.
Yeah, it's
you're on
interesting.
the drinking your own urine step then?
Oh,
Of
yes.
the snake juice diet?
Definitely.
Well, we did get this contraption. We basically got it from somebody was selling items from the set of Waterworld, and I think it really works.
Yeah.
Anyway, so on to wait. Actually, we didn't get the director yet, did we?
We did.
Just ignored
Yeah.
him. Oh, jeez.
We did.
I haven't even.
Well, you just
drinking
ignored
yet.
them.
Only you ignored him.
All right, guys. So Wind Through the Keyhole.
Went through the keyhole.
This is cool. The first time I read this book, it came out significantly later than the rest of the series, obviously.
Right.
So this was cool for me because I got to read it in its intended spot in the story, which I liked. I actually did like that because it was a good transition. Well, for several reasons, actually. But one is it's a good transition from the very badass Wizarding Glass to Roland's past to kind of the changing dynamic of Roland's current content. And I liked it as a stepping stone. The only thing is I do wish that some of his old quartet members were more characters in
More
it.
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
very cool story. But the other reason I liked it is because it breaks up the audiobook. I'm an audiobooker in this, at least this time through. And unfortunately, we've talked about it a little bit through the other podcasts, but after book 4, Wizarding Glass, the current audiobook, masterful audiobook
Voice
actor passed away in a motorcycle accident. And so he was, I think it was George, the other gentleman, took his place.
George Goodall.
And he's a great audio voice as well.
Yeah.
But they're different. And so the cool thing about this is Stephen King actually reads this.
Yeah.
So
was
they're
Frank
both
Miller.
way better than Stephen King reading this. Because let's put it this way. Stephen King is a great writer. When it comes to reading his own works, it's a little harder.
But, to be fair, he's better than most people could do it.
Agreed. Because
But
he knows
he's
the
not as
pacing.
good as the masters that were doing his
Right,
book. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, but this should allow our transition to George Goodall or something
Yeah,
like
something
that,
like that.
a little bit easier. If we had the fact checker here, he would look this up for us.
But it's
He's
a shame
basically
that the
retired.
other narrator, Frank Miller,
Frank Miller, yeah.
did pass away.
Hey, that is a bummer because I absolutely loved his delivery.
Yeah, he was fantastic for all of the quartet characters.
I know.
All of them.
Super
I know
awesome.
it's. I don't know how the next guy does it, but it's gonna be weird to get used to new voices. I
Again,
think
yeah.
because I already
Yeah.
have them pretty solidified in my mind as those voices. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as far as the actual book goes, I can't really 100% say for sure because I have to finish the series, I think. But I think that it actually might be beneficial considering it was written after and then he kind of stuck it in here. Even though Stephen King says this is where it's supposed to be and he recommends you read it in this order, I might have saved this for a little revisit postscript if I was to do it again. Just because it kind of I kind of just wanted to get back to the story. I wanted to get back to the actual story. I understand, like, this gives more information about Roland, and I found it interesting.
Yeah.
But I think I was a little anxious to be like, oh, this is all interesting, but I want to know the other stuff first, and then this would, like, fill in gaps and be more interesting to
It
me.
is a good point in the sense that you remember we basically spent a big, probably 90% of Wizard and Glass away from our current content. And
This was a continuation of that departure, so
agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
it kind of rubbed a little bit of salt in the wound for people who were already hungry
Yeah.
and thirsty for more Roland.
I felt like it was a little bit of a continuation of that. And I do have a feeling that maybe there's something I missed because I was audiobooking it while I was doing other things.
Yeah.
But I also felt like the parts with Roland when he was young, I was like, okay, I can get into this. This is interesting. But then, like, 70% of the book is this Wind Through the Keyhole story. And
Right.
I understand that there's, like, a parallel somewhere, but I was just like, this is a whole separate book. I didn't quite get it.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a
story.
whole. I mean, I understand
Yeah.
that there's tie-ins. It's
Yeah.
not a completely separate book. There is tie-ins, and it is important, but it just it took me out a little bit.
I actually kind of liked it. It was really strange, though. It's like it reminded me of Inception. How many levels deep can you go?
Yeah.
And how does time change when you're going those deep levels?
But in
It's like-
Inception, it's one goal.
Yeah.
Every single layer deeper that they go, it's one goal. This was
I know.
just like, all right, once we get into purgatory or whatever the bottom level is, let's go play chess for a while.
yeah,
What?
I,
It's a
uh,
completely different goal.
well, so I don't know about that, but we'll talk into it a little bit more. But if you think about how many levels it is, it's current Katet,
Yeah.
Roland telling a story about his past,
Young Roland.
telling a story to a kid, and then we're listening to that story.
Right.
And so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 levels. That's
Yeah.
pretty dope.
Yeah.
I kind of looked up the Wind Through the Keyhole on like other websites and stuff to just get a quick synopsis of what people thought about it, a quick overview of what people thought about it, and a lot of websites labeled it specifically as a standalone book to the Dark Tower series, which I felt I guess kind of works. Like you could almost not have read any of the other Dark Tower stories and then pick this up and be like, oh, that was kind of interesting. Like, this is a really cool story about a kid and his, abusive stepdad and, in lumberjack land. But
Well, the other interesting thing about that is that if you did that, I have a feeling that if I did that, if I read this first without knowing anything else, nothing about Roland, nothing about anything else, I'd have the exact mirror image of what I think, which is I'd be like, man, I love that Wind Through the Keyhole story, but what was all that other shit around it?
right. Yeah, you would have no idea what, like, Susanna and Eddie Dean and Jake and Oi, like, you would have no idea who those guys are. Like,
Yeah, I'd be like, what was all that?
why does this book have, like, 10 narrators when you only need one? So,
Sidebar real quick. Do you guys think old 100-plus-year-old man who ran the ferry live or died? Or did he get eaten by the Stark Blast? Because that shit came way faster than he thought it would come.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he died.
I think he
died.
probably died.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
very coincidental that they just so happen to be going to like a town that happened to have like a concrete building that they could survive in, that happened to have a well, that happened to have a bucket right next to it. Like it seemed like Ka was working very much in their favor
Yeah.
and their favor only.
Yeah,
So
maybe
I don't
not
know
old
if
man
it was
Jack.
so much protecting other people.
But he made great damn popkins, didn't he?
Yeah.
yeah, that he did.
Secondly, Jake probably has tetanus. Or Roland. Third, or maybe it was Eddie. Eddie had it. One of them just got like totally scuffed up trying to get boards through the... But I actually thought that scene was well paced because by the time Jake was about to make it in, I was getting pretty cool visuals of him like every step he took, he was just like floating through the air before he got pulled in and saved. However, my next question is, with Oi and all the Bumblers, they tend to do this thing when they sense a Stark Blast coming.
Right.
But does that mean that whenever a Stark Blast come, they just stand and circle until they die?
Yeah.
Or
Thought too.
you know what I mean? Like, does that mean it's like their time to die? Because they certainly like warn everyone, but then they don't do anything.
They don't
just
do anything.
freeze.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
like warn everyone and feel like they need to run away. It's
But
like,
the thing is, like, they know, like, the wizards to hide. Like, if they're out in the woods.
that's
They're
true.
just-
That dragon didn't even make it when we
Yeah.
saw the aftermath coming
like,
back.
they could
so-
run,
right.
but how could they get outrun
Yeah.
the width of the storm?
Well,
They
you have
just,
to. You
they
have
just
to
keep
get
sniffing, being like,
yeah.
"Nope, 20 minutes left to live.
Yeah, exactly.
Spin around,
That's-
spin around.
10 minutes left to live. Better
Yeah,
start spinning."
That's kind of how the swamp people were too. They were
Yeah.
extremely fatalistic. Like they kind of had a feeling that this storm was coming, and they're just like, "Yeah, when it happens, it
They,
happens."
they
C'est la
knew
vie.
because they saw the bully bumblers doing
Yeah.
it. Plus, they were already
They were dying
infected
off anyway. Yeah.
with some disease, and they were didn't have
Radiation
long to live.
poisoning or something. How did you like it when their wounds burst and little spiders came out of it? Or they're like
Oh.
digging spiders out of their wounds. I was like, oh man, that's so gross.
It's nightmare fuel.
Yeah, the description of it that Stephen King did was, whoo, man. He's just like talking to him, and then his wound bursts, and he just like sticks his finger into the wound and digs a giant sack out, and then a giant little fat spider.
Oh boy, yowza!
Oh,
I wonder if Stephen King ever just like sits at home like while he's thinking and writing, and he's just like, "Man, I'm an asshole. How do I think of these things? How can I do this to another human, even in a story?"
Yeah.
yeah.
What's
He
that?
saw like a nature documentary or something.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I was wondering. Like he's watching TV. He's like, I need to work this into my book.
It's like, yeah, that needs to go
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people do that. They draw from, a lot of writers do that. They'll just like take like something that actually happened. It's just like, let's expand on this, you know?
yeah. Let's all assume this happened to him as a kid.
Yeah.
He had,
He had a
he got
big
those
ass spider.
spiders
Oh
and then-
god.
Dude, he could have literally gotten bit by a botfly and had eggs from a botfly.
Oh.
That's like what those creatures are in real life. They
Oh.
burrow in your skin and lay eggs.
And
Jeez.
where do they live, Andrew?
Inside.
South America, Africa, I believe, both of those
Okay.
continents.
I just
Yeah.
assumed everything that can kill you lives in Australia.
No, those aren't in Australia, as far as I know.
Man. So, anyone else want to talk about how much of a douche Tiny Tim's stepdad is?
Oh
Big
yeah.
Yeah. Freaking asshole.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. Should we
He
talk
is a
about
flawed man.
the next level of framing? So we go into Roland's past real quick.
Yeah.
And his
Yeah.
arrival.
Yeah. the beginning of that story, I was convinced
Yeah.
that his partner was gonna die.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Jamie Red Hands.
Jamie, yeah.
Jamie Red Hands.
It's like, oh, this is not his partners from the last book, part
Right.
of the quartet. It's a new one. I bet he's gonna die.
Yeah.
And
It
he
never
lives.
happened. Yeah,
I was disappointed.
I was not fully convinced that he was gonna. I thought that he might, but I wasn't fully convinced that he was gonna die just because he was never Katet, and I knew that if they were Katet and he wasn't around anymore, he'd have to be dead, right? 'Cause
Right.
that's pretty much the only
Yeah.
thing that would probably split them apart if
Yeah.
they were that bonded. But since
Yeah.
they were just like, what do they call them, like mates or whatever, something like that. I forget what they call them, but since they were just like kind of like doing a mission together, they
Yeah.
weren't like bonded or
They
whatever.
were, they
Right.
weren't like true quartet
Yeah.
at this time.
I wanted to comment on that too, Ben. I'm glad that you brought up Jamie Red Hands because when King introduced that character, I'm like, oh, cool, we get another sidekick for Roland because Cuthbert and Elaine were so awesome. Like, what is this guy's like sweet, cool ability? And I think, like, honestly, one of my few criticisms for this book is that King wastes the introduction of a
Potential.
new character. He doesn't do anything with Jamie Red Hands. So
Yeah.
I think at one point he mentions that he prefers melee fighting or like bow staff fighting.
Yeah.
Or I could even be making that up because I want something
I think
cool
he
to
did
happen. But
I think he did. You know what?
Yeah.
We'll have to
It
confirm
was some
that. But I
kind
thought
of,
he did like the quarterstaff or something.
yeah,
I thought
yeah,
it was
he
some kind of
mentions
throwing
that.
weapon.
And
Like
he,
Ruin weapon. Okay.
I don't remember at all.
yeah, and Jamie Red Hands never uses it. It's almost like you're watching a Bond movie And Q is like, "Oh, I'm gonna equip you with all these sweet weapons and abilities. Like, here's a cool
Then he never uses
laser
it.
watch." And then he never uses it in the movie. You're like, "What the hell?"
Here's this amazing car that can fly and go underwater
Right.
and shoots out missiles, and then he like never drives it.
Right? Exactly.
That's actually a great point that I didn't think about, and I always did think that Jamie Redhand was just bland because of that.
Yeah.
But I never thought about it in the fact that, boy, I loved Cuthbert and I loved Alan. Why not introduce another badass sidekick? And he's even
Right.
got a sick name, Jamie Redhand. Like, why is
Yeah.
he called Jamie Redhand? You know?
I think he
Exactly.
probably didn't want to go super deep in with him simply because he's like, he's gonna live. He's not important.
I don't
He only-
need to
he
draw
only
any
cares about the
attention
ones
to
he's gonna
this.
kill.
That's dark. That's dark.
That's
It
like
is
a
all
George
tied into
R.R.
it.
Martin
yeah.
type mindset.
But
Yeah.
but this is kind of why I thought he was gonna die. 'Cause
Yeah.
They give some character background, but then there wasn't enough.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, oh, there's not a lot here. He's gonna be one of the first gunslingers to die.
Yeah.
Because how the order kept getting smaller and smaller, and
Right.
another experience for Roland to go through having his partner die.
It was kind of cool to visit Roland. Obviously, I think what was it? A few years after his adventure in.
I don't think so.
I think it was a little, not that long, but I think he was 14. Now he's 16, so a year and a half.
It was
Year and a half later.
the events of this book
thought it
take
was right
place
after.
in the months after Roland's
just
tricked
months.
into
Yeah.
killing
Okay.
his mother.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was already a little while after.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Right.
So the interesting thing is, it was cool to see because the world is still kind of hanging on a little bit.
Yeah.
But he rides out there, and you just hear from the people. First of all, some of them are kind of talking shit to Gilead and talking about the Farson, the good man, and
Yeah.
and then some of the folk, they're talking about how hard it is now because there's just the trade isn't there anymore. The train doesn't come as often.
Yeah.
So it is starting to move on, but it's not
Yeah.
quite moved on yet.
There were people right outside of Gilead who were flashing gang symbols, like the symbol
Yeah.
of the third eye, which was apparently a symbol of Farson, or the
Yeah,
good man.
the all-knowing
And it's like,
eye,
dude, there's
all-seeing
like
eye.
blatant traitors, like right outside of Gilead, just like
This-
hanging out in their houses,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
being bothered. It's like, oh boy, if Gilead can't get these people in line, like they're kind of really losing their reach.
It's almost like that political situation where it's not full out rebellion, like civil war yet, but it's basically there's two sides fighting, and then there's a lot of people who are not involved yet, but have clear political alliances
They're all
and are
discontent.
very, very okay with flashing who they want to win.
Right.
But haven't quite been drawn in yet. But yeah, I mean, you could just tell, you get a sense that this world is going to hell in a handbasket quickly.
Yeah, this book kind of made me think a little bit about that whole phrasing of the world has moved on.
Yeah.
I was kind of in the beginning thinking that it was like a physics-based thing, like literally the world was like decaying.
Yeah.
But there's parts of this book that kind of makes me wonder if it's like a little bit like behavioral and economic,
More
and-
spiritual.
Yeah.
something like that. Like where it's actually just like people losing faith or something happening that
Yeah.
makes them, not want to partake in the system or something. I don't know.
I think it's a little bit of both.
A little bit of
because
both.
they do talk about the world decaying because the beams are actually decaying.
Right.
But
Were they?
yeah, they are because in
At least that's what Roland said,
wastelands and everything they have trouble saying what distances are now because
Right.
physics is kind of breaking down
Yeah, and
along the
time
path
has
of the
changed
beam. Yeah,
also,
it's kind of
yeah.
like space time is getting a little wonky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and the thinnies.
The thinnies,
Yeah,
exactly.
the thinnies for sure. Yeah.
So there's definitely decay in physics, time space, but there's also decay.
People
I
losing
think,
faith, maybe, yeah. Losing hope.
Economy,
Yeah.
just pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it seems
very-
like the population is just getting smaller and smaller.
yeah,
yeah.
There's
Yep.
no the biggest village they came across besides the town was that village of old folks, maybe.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, even in this section, when Roland meets the acting sheriff of the new town, he's like, "Yeah, this town's ain't not gonna last much longer. Like, I think that convent of all women may like continue on, but I think this town's only got another couple, like, years left in it or something. So even
Never
the sheriff,
forget, they eats the men.
yeah, right. And then he tells him it eats the men. So yeah, right at that section, even the sheriff's like, yeah, this place probably isn't going to last much longer.
Something kind of interesting. It's pretty cool when they kind of give a shout out to the big, giant priestess woman from the Gunslinger who passed through the covenant of women before Roland got there.
Oh, right.
They made a little shout out to that, which was kind of neat because we obviously meet her again on her path following the beam later, already possessed in a way, thanks to the good old Walter O'Dim, the Man in Black, a.k.a. the Covenant Man.
Right around this section, right around this point in the book, I finally started getting interested. I was kind of like blasé about the whole book, especially because I was going back and forth between the audiobook and the book. And Stephen King's narrations were pretty like disappointing as an audiobook listener at this part in it. I think King does an amazing job with the Covenant Man much later in the story.
He does do a great job with the Covenant Man. I agree there.
But at this
He
part in the
definitely gets
book,
better
like,
as he goes on.
He does.
And it's like he got like a little bit of practice as he did it, and they're just like, we're not going to re-record the beginning.
Yeah. Because Stephen King.
Right.
He does. He definitely gets into it more. And therefore his voices with the Covenant Man and Little Tim and a lot of the other creatures, they work out well. But we're also used to Frank Miller.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, he's
got that energy.
one of the best audiobook voices.
I know, he's got like 20 different voices.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough conversion. By the end of it, though, I agree. It's a combination of you get used to it and he gets better.
Right.
To help you kind of get through that.
But
it was this point where you were getting into it, Andrew?
Yeah, this is the point in the story where I totally got into it because this is the first time you hear the details of what's happening in this town. Stephen Deshane, Roland's father, it does kind of a flashback where he's telling him what's happening in this town, and then Roland's relating it to Jamie, Red Hands, and he's letting him in on the scoop. And basically there's like a werewolf type dude, a skinwalker, who's going around transforming into animals and just tearing people to pieces. And at this point in the story, I was like, ooh, man, this is getting nasty. This is getting good. Like, I want more details. This is a really awesome like horror / mystery that they set up. So I totally, like, this is the point in the book where I was like, ooh, I am all on board. Like, take it away, King.
Yeah.
I kind of started getting into it a little bit more at that point, too. But then he was like, but first, let me tell you this other story.
Right.
It would have been cool, in my opinion, because I like this story than a story aspect, but it would have been cool to have a little bit more horror / detective stuff going on in town with Roland before getting into the keyhole story.
Yeah.
But however,
I think part of it was also just my impatience. I'm like really anxious to find out what happens, like with our actual content. You know,
and again, that's one of the pros and cons of reading it in the, the actual spot that it takes place.
Because I mean, to be fair, the Wind in the Keyhole, the story was amazingly written. It's a good story.
I agree.
It's not something that I was like, oh my gosh, this story's garbage. Why is he telling me this? I was just being probably impatient. It's more a fault of me than Stephen King.
No,
most
but
likely.
that's true.
But that's how I felt,
Yeah. Skinwalker is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
I liked some of the cliches that he used, but then some of the kind of creative, unique things that he used to.
It was also interesting
because
character. At first I was thinking like werewolf type thing also, but apparently he can take like any shape almost, or like become any living animal.
Animal creature.
Yeah,
because he was like even a snake at one point,
and like a crocodile-esque type thing too,
which was interesting.
Tiger,
bear,
wolf, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And he got it all from a watch.
Like
that's where his powers came from. So I wonder if it had anything to do with was that Positronic? Like
Positronic.
North Central
Yeah.
North Central
Positronics.
Positronics.
Like it was some kind of experimental watch they had.
Well, they because the salt mines. Those guys are down in the salt mines, and they found some like green glowing area with some old shit.
yeah.
Oh yeah, because they did say
Oh,
you know you dig deep enough, you find demons
Oh,
and
yeah,
stuff
that's
like
true.
that.
Now,
yeah.
I wasn't sure if he got it from the watch, or if he was greedy because they saw some like items in that area that also had like the green glowing mist.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if he got the powers from the mist because he wanted the watch,
Right.
or if he got it from the watch
Yeah.
itself. I was thinking it was because he went into that kind
Area.
of area.
A forbidden area.
Right.
I do like the idea of it being the fault of
Timepiece.
the timepiece. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then wouldn't that make him the TikTok man? This is all confusing.
Yeah, it was interesting. So, and then the kid, I forget the kid's name who was in Roland's time.
Tim.
Who,
Oh,
not
Bill.
Tim. That's
Little
Bill.
Bill.
That was Little Bill. Little old Bill who watched everybody die and hit
yeah.
on the floorboards. That was pretty cool. Interesting scene.
I thought it was interesting that he didn't have the like vocabulary to describe what he saw, though. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess it's kind of like a mining town in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of like
Yeah. Yeah, they
This
don't
is-
really know what tattoos are. They
Yeah.
didn't know what a tattoo was.
Yeah.
he didn't know what a tattoo was. He also didn't know whatever the white thing. I guess a scar.
Yeah.
Was it a
Someone
scar?
else
He
was
didn't know how
scar.
to say scar, which I thought was interesting. Or maybe it was like, I don't know, something to do with the magic of his ability to like fog your mind. I don't
Yeah,
know.
he might have just been really out
That,
of it.
just
Yeah.
the adrenaline from the fear.
Yeah.
Like, and only glimpsing, like, that certain.
Yeah,
time.
I'm sure he's not thinking very clearly.
Yeah.
He must have been scared out of his mind.
That coupled with the lack of education out there.
Yeah.
Right. I'm guessing there's not much of a school system at all out there.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like it. It did not sound like it.
It sounds like the ladies, Evelyn and her convent women, do offer some learning services, but that's probably only available to people under very special circumstances.
Yeah. So anyway, when Roland, obviously he brings this kid into prison essentially, and boy, I was kind of like in my mind wishing that he would just really mess up those deputies that were loudmouth
Yeah.
assholes.
I'm really surprised
But-
because, like, in my mind, I pictured it as like, oh, you got the local sheriff, he's
Yep.
in charge, and then Roland's like the FBI coming in, so
Yeah.
obviously he's in charge.
But he looks like a kid still.
yeah, still.
So
And it's 16, but still, this whole society is based on links, and he's a gunslinger, and he has the gun, so
yeah.
they're not gonna mess with him that much.
Yeah.
And they still like talk so much smack to him.
Oh, they
I mean,
talk so much.
I can understand a little bit because, you know, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, especially when there's politics involved, you know, people can come in with rank,
Yeah.
but not the skill to back it up.
That's true.
You know, and these people might be like, you know, how does this guy know he's better than me?
They
You
clearly don't know how
uh,
gunslingers train, though, that's for sure.
Yeah, I guess gunslingers are a little different than certain
Yeah.
But like even
things
the
in our
sheriff, like
world,
those
but-
are the bad deputies. This is the good one.
Yeah.
Those are the fuck ups.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he locks the kid in prison, which I thought was ingenious, and then he's going to use him for bait.
I have to say though, this
good.
kind of goes to show that Roland has a long-standing history of putting other people in danger because he's very confident in his skills.
Yes, that's
To
very
protect
true.
them.
Yeah, he does.
He is very true.
It's very true, but I mean, I guess if you're that
Yeah.
confident, it's not too bad. But
Yeah.
he definitely risks. I mean, it's not that he doesn't risk himself. He's not doing it to
Right.
protect himself. So
Yeah.
that's.
Right.
I'm not saying he's being dishonorable or anything,
Yeah.
but he definitely does put other people in harm's way.
I think he
lot.
took as reasonable expectations to protect the kid.
He did
Because he
try and
it was in the jail cell, so he'll be the last one to die. Everyone else.
He'll still die, though.
He definitely tried to protect him as well as he could, but he was putting the crosshairs on him by even
Like,
executing that
This is
plan.
the
Like,
right.
this kid knows who did it.
Right.
Red
This
Hand.
one right here
Right.
And Red Hand,
knows who did it.
Red Hand even said that, and so did the sheriff, right? He's like, you okay doing that? It's like, let me worry about it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that's... And obviously the kid's terrified.
Yeah.
So Roland bribes him with candies and a story. He gets him an entire stack of candy.
Yeah.
All I could
Listen
think
to
of
White
is I was
Van.
just like,
Yeah,
oh,
like,
man.
yeah, I know. The only thing missing is the white van.
Well, he was riding his white horse. So it was
He like
basically-
chocolates.
Yeah. Oh man, we accidentally teleported into it real quick. Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting.
All
You
of a
like
sudden,
popcorn?
Roland's like cotton candy.
Oh man. But he gets him like all sugar hide and then tells him a story, which is the story within the story within the story. And that was.
I really
Winter
like
the
that
Keyhole.
story too.
It was good.
I thought it
Yeah,
was dope.
I liked
it.
really
Good story.
liked it. Yeah. Obviously, for a kid's story, I thought it was a little rated R.
Yeah.
So clearly,
My mama used to tell me this story all the time.
I was thinking like, man, this is the story your mom tells you. It's kind of like, oh
If you
man.
think about it, the old what are those fairy tales? The Veda.
Oh yeah, the
Oh, the
Grimm's fairy
Grimm-
tales
Grimm-
They're
are
pretty dark.
yeah.
Like back
But
in the
usually
day, those-
not the versions that we hear. Like a lot of the Grimm's fairy tales that we, well, I mean, I don't know about you, but
'Cause they
for
got
me,
remade for us.
I knew the Disney versions
Yeah.
of those. You know
But
what
like
I mean?
back in the
But
day,
back in the day, they were
pretty
dark.
So like
they were
this
very
is,
dark.
I'm
I got a
assuming,
Grimm book over there. You see that Grimm's?
Yeah.
Yeah, hand that to me real
Yeah.
quick.
But
We've got the original Grimm fairy tales here.
I'm assuming like
Turn to any page,
Yeah.
someone dying.
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm assuming
Yeah.
like this time period is the
That's
same
true.
as that time period.
That's
So
very
the
true.
Fairy tales are not Disney fairy tales.
I'm sure. See, with like technology and things becoming safer comes the privilege of being able to let your kids be kids longer. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're in such harsh environments, they got to grow up quick, and they probably
Yeah.
don't coddle their children so much. You know?
I would like to read a line that I randomly flipped to,
All right, let's hear it.
Do it.
and it is the end of a story. And yes,
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert if you want to know about the real Snow White.
Oh, shit.
Then the wicked woman uttered a curse, and was so wretched, so utterly wretched, that she knew not what to do. At first she would not go to the wedding at all, but she had no peace, and must go to see the young queen. And when she went in, she knew Snow White, and she stood still with rage and fear, and could not stir. But iron slippers had already been put upon the fire, and they were brought in with tongs, and set before her. Then she was forced to put on the red-hot shoes, and dance until she dropped down dead.
Jeez.
That is hard.
Good night.
Listen here, don't be a dick.
Dude, that's
So-
almost like a book
Sleep
where,
tight, sweetie.
yeah, where the parents are like, see what other kids are enduring out there? You've got it really good in this,
Yeah.
And you complain
flea-ridden
about doing
shithole.
dishes?
Yeah, right.
Dear Huntsman, but do we live?
Dear
so,
God.
Snow White and the Huntsman. Interesting. So, yeah, anyway, I beg to differ. No wonder she was telling him that story, because
Yeah.
she was reading him real fairy tales.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point, Ben.
Not modern day fairy tales.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, that it is pretty dark because it talks about pretty much Big Kelly,
Big
pretty much
Kells.
raping Big Kelly's raping his mom.
Yeah, murdering his dad, basically raping and abusing his mom
yeah.
regularly, abusing him even a little
Yeah.
bit, at least mentally.
Being a drunk.
Because a drunk.
And then he slits the throat of the poor old
Oh
teacher.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh my
dude, that
God.
was like kind of the worst because we were almost to the end.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, we got it, you know, we're gonna survive. Stupid Big Kel or whatever is out hiding in some barn. We'll never have to worry about him.
Yeah. I really wanted to see.
I knew better than that, by the way.
I really wanted to see justice done to Big Kells, but apparently I don't remember that happening in the book.
They
think so.
found him, and I think they like just brought him in. They didn't really talk that much about it.
Oh,
right?
Big Kells?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
What happened to him?
Did they hang him or?
No,
yeah, they
well,
caught him.
at the end, remember?
Oh no,
Tim-
he got an axe in the head.
Yeah, Tim.
Oh, yeah,
Tim
that's right.
gave
Got an
his
axe in
mom
there.
the eye drops, so her blindness was cured, and then she gave the axe to his mom, and then when freaking Big Kells goes to strangle poor little Tim
Yeah,
to
that's
death,
right. That's right.
his mom comes up from behind and axes him in the back of the head.
That's kind of some sweet vengeance.
Yeah.
The best thing about it is,
Actually,
too,
that's
That's
not a
right.
bad story
Yeah.
for a kid. Hey,
man.
moral of the story: don't beat your wife, you little shit.
Right.
I'll have to get
I'd axe you in the head. The cool thing about that
I guess
too.
that's her ex now.
Yeah. Her ex-husband. Oh, I'm sorry. Could you want to meet my ex-husband? Sorry, I had to do it.
That should have been our words of radiance.
Should have been our words of radiance. Meet my ex-husband. God damn, man. If only. Anyway, but yeah, I felt really bad for the teacher. Now let's not talk about how totally irresponsible she is, though. She basically gives a 10-year-old a 4-shooter and then lets him go out into the woods on an errand where he will clearly die.
Look, to be a little bit fair, though, she did try to speak some reason into him, but then she saw his eyes, right? That's what we're talking about.
Well, you little 10-year-old, you're obviously going to just...
Dude, he must
do
have just
something.
been like crazy eyes.
Yeah.
Some people are on a mission. And like we said, this might be an area where kids grow up quicker.
Yeah.
10-year-old may be
True.
20 at that time.
Also,
you know?
he had the gunslinger eyes since he did become one of the only gunslingers not born of the line of Eld.
Yep, that's true. That's very true.
Dude,
Yeah.
that kid
So
was
she
like
probably- she
9
may
or
have sensed
9 or
something.
10 or 11, and he had a part-time job at a lumber mill too. So
Yeah.
I know. Child labor laws, where
Right.
are you?
right.
Yeah, this town was clearly pretty harsh. Kind of
Yeah.
a bummer. And it doesn't help that the good old Covenant man will come around and raise taxes as a hobby. A man of hobbies. I love watching your faces as I raise taxes.
That was pretty
Which
good,
just
Jeff.
goes to show, ladies and gentlemen, the real true evil is the government.
Hey, Timmy. Timmy, come here and look in this bucket. Check out this bucket. See what you see.
Oh man.
Here's this magic wand. I mean shifter.
Man, what kind of
That's awesome.
being is he? It's so weird. Like, who can
Yeah.
find pleasure in so much misery? I just
Oh,
don't
man,
get it.
He's a unique guy.
He is a unique guy. I hope Roland puts one
Before
right
we
between his
continue
eyes.
going down this dark Covenant man path, I need a refill.
All right.
I'll be right
me
back.
too.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Yes.
Hook me up, Jeff.
So what we are going to do is we're just going to do a quick cut. Magic.
Wow. I think the director might have a little Covenant in him.
Yes.
Oh, thanks for refilling my drink.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh,
magic.
yeah, wow,
also got
shit.
to use our
Ooh,
diddle
wow, new
sticks.
one. Cheers. That was nice.
Guys, I have a degree in tree chopping.
Do you? You're a woodsman. You have a degree in tree chopping. You know what's best?
I'm an
You have a
official
partner
woodsman.
to watch your back, right?
Oh,
Yes, I do.
Nice.
man. Big Cal is like, it's your, that whole thing. He's explaining to his mom. It's like, your mom in a while made me do it. Oh my god.
I know,
This guy
man.
is
Dude, yeah.
psycho.
Man, your
Dude,
mom was
yeah.
so hot. She made me kill your dad.
Dude, I mean, I don't want to say I feel bad for him because he's obviously a piece of shit. But
Right, yeah.
I feel bad because the Covenant man is like, you know, like, well, yeah, it makes sense that he does that because, you know, his dad, it's like, he obviously had a rough childhood.
Yeah.
And I have a little bit of empathy, I guess, for people that go through tough things, but it's like, damn, did he turn into a shithead?
Total.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's so
yeah.
sad,
He,
but it's like, oh my gosh.
I was really holding out because you kind of right away from the get go you kind of suspect that maybe he
Yeah.
Nels killed.
You're
Big,
wondering. Certainly wondering.
Yeah.
Tim's dad. But when he goes up to Tim's mother and he, asks for her hand in marriage, I'm like, okay, like maybe he, might have some better intentions here.
Right.
And she flat out asks him, like, you're gonna treat me and my son nice, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I'll definitely treat you right. And then
What is he gonna say
immediately-
though?
Later
I pretty much plan on beating you every chance I can.
yeah, and then like later that exact same night he hits her, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, you piece of shit.
Oh, was it that
You were just
soon?
like-
I
right?
missed
It
that. I
was
didn't
the
realize
wedding.
it was that soon.
It was actually the wedding night.
Yeah.
He got
Yeah.
too drunk. He said he wasn't going to drink anymore, and he drank a lot for being a not drinker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the cider
And
or
then
something.
he hit her
Yeah.
just in the arm or something, but it was a start.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't give a
yeah, I'm not sure if it hit her that time or just from grabbing her and yanking her around.
Yeah, something like that.
But either way.
Either way, man.
And during the wedding, all the women knew.
Yeah.
They
Dude.
didn't say anything. It's look pity and
Oh, not only that, the women all knew, and all of the men clearly suspected that he might have killed
Right.
Big Tom.
Lost.
What was it? That Big Ross. That's it.
I don't know if they.
Ross,
well,
Because they avoided him, nobody would be his partner.
did.
well, I think
Right.
They
Right.
definitely didn't like him.
it wasn't so much that, but he was just his temper and his
Yeah.
drinking. They avoid him for
I think
that
it's
reason.
a lot. But
Yeah,
probably-
that's what I
Also,
thought it
there
was.
was after
They
Big Ross
didn't-
died.
yeah.
They didn't believe the story about the dragon either. 'Cause,
Nobody.
um,
Everyone was a little hazy about it.
Yeah,
for
Big
sure.
Kells was like, "Oh, he got burned up by a dragon," and then later, in hindsight, all the villagers are like, "Oh, I never believed that story about the dragon." So
Yeah.
I
Now-
guess it could go either way.
Now, really quick,
Yeah.
one thing that I kind of missed because I kind of glossed over that section. Did he say like, "Oh, it's a dragon" because he's a fucking terrible liar, or are there actually dragons in this world?
So there are dragons, but
There
they're
are?
very rare, and there hasn't been any around there in a really long time.
Okay.
And it just so
So-
happens
I thought maybe it was
Tim
like a
runs into one.
I thought maybe it was like a
Just-
very
but it's-
gullible, superstitious area
Yeah.
because they're uneducated, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Ah, dragon got him."
Tim does run into a dragon in this story, but remember, it is significantly further past the farthest that anyone
Yeah.
goes anyway.
Also,
Oh, that's right.
And it was
Yeah.
like hibernating, or just like
Yeah.
sleeping.
Yeah. Sleeping in a
okay.
mud pit.
Yeah. But also, I had to kind of give props to Big Kells a little bit for actually like burning himself on a fire.
Yeah,
To
he
like
did burn
convince the
himself.
lie. He like built a fire and then like stood over it.
Yep.
I'm like, man.
Dude, I can tell you this. I mean, I'm not saying that this is what he did, but there are some people out there that are such good liars that they even believe their own lie. You know what I
he
mean?
almost believed it himself.
Like he believed,
yeah.
he might have even just believed. He convinced himself, "There's no way this is the person I am." You know,
Right.
and he just like, no, it's the only way I can live with it is if I don't believe it.
Well, it's crazy
He
because
believed that-
he could clearly let his guilt a little bit because he
Yeah.
had a case or the trunk.
Trunk
Yeah.
with the. He kept the locket, not
Yeah.
the lucky.
The
The lucky coin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he believed that his Tim's mom made him do it, and
Yeah,
it's all
yeah,
her
yeah,
fault. He
yeah,
put
that's
all
true.
that on her,
Yeah.
and he's like, "I'm not guilty. This is her fault."
Right.
Like, okay.
Ugh.
Dude, the other thing that's
The capabilities of some people's minds is just astonishing.
dude, he
Yeah.
it's really interesting because him and Ross went probably because of Ross mostly they had like the farthest, but how long Ross was basically not decaying, face down in a pool of swamp water
Yeah.
was kind of terrifying
Right.
in a way. But
It was pretty cool that the swamp bugs don't eat the corpse of a virtuous man who's
Yeah.
who's like dead. That's kind of a weird, interesting,
Yeah.
magical thing.
Yeah.
yeah, I did get the sense this world that was in this story reminded me a little bit of that Eyes of the Dragon book. A tiny
Yeah,
bit.
for sure.
it
Well,
had a
we have a
similar
character
vibe.
who makes an appearance in both of those.
Yes, very true. We do. And actually even Tim, is it Tim? And
kid.
the blonde friend. They specifically are mentioned in the Gunslinger.
Oh wow!
From
Are
the
they?
Eyes of the Dragon, the fat kid,
Oh, from
the brother, the little brother who ended up.
From Eyes of the Dragon,
Yeah.
was that Nicholas? Was that kid's name?
I can't remember, dude. I thought
I
Nicholas
wanna
might have
say
been
it
the
was
blonde
Nicholas.
friend, but
'Cause-
you might be right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think Peter was the main character and Nicholas was the brother. I want to
Peter
say. I could be
was the
wrong.
older. Yeah, Peter was the older brother for
Yeah.
sure. That was in prison. But anyway, different book, so we don't need to go there. But it had that vibe, which is also a Stephen King book.
I have to say, there's also points in a lot of these books where I'm not sure if Stephen King is making it up or if he's drawing from some, because there's so much world crossing.
Yeah.
You know, like Hey Jude in that one town and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
I'm like, when he first mentioned Wind Through the Keyhole, I was like, Googling, I'm like, is Wind Through the Keyhole a real short story?
Yeah.
It's like, because I want to know. It's like,
Well,
but then it's
yeah.
like you don't know. I'm like, is he actually like Charlie the Choo Choo? I'm pretty sure I've read that book. I don't
Yeah.
know if he made that up or not. I'm pretty
No,
sure
I-
I've read that.
Yeah, we were talking about that in the podcast. And
Yeah.
the other thing is, obviously, we were influenced by the Wizard of Oz last book.
Yeah.
And
yeah, exactly.
there's stuff that he pulls in, which
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
It's really cool.
There
But,
was one thing I wanted to mention regarding exactly that topic, real quick. The storm it's called like the Stark Storms or something in Roland's
Stark
current
Blasts.
world. The Stark Blasts. In the world of the in the story in The Wind Through the Keyhole, the forest people call the storms simoons. A simoon, and that's a word that Edgar Allan Poe made up.
Oh, nice.
He got that from Egyptian folklore or something. A simoon was like a storm, was like an ancient storm that would blow through Egypt. And in a lot of Poe's stories, you'll see the word simoon used to describe like a storm or some kind of a tempest or a hurricane even.
Yeah.
And King totally uses it in this book, which I was like, oh, that's awesome. A little quick shout out to Edgar Allan Poe.
That's awesome.
I always
love
thought it's so
hearing that
cool
stuff.
how a lot of those like old master writers like just make up words that we still use today. Like
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
Shakespeare made up out of nowhere a ton of words that
Yeah.
are just like part of normal conversation today.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, I wish I had the confidence to just be like, this is a word now.
What do you mean, Brett? I do.
That's true. Jeff does that all the time.
You guys just don't follow along yet.
And then
Hey.
Elise will be like, that's not a word.
Pretty soon,
Anyway,
Brett
and
Pretty
Jeff will
soon,
keep
Brett
using
bets
it.
are going to be in the dictionary.
Yeah, that's true. So, anyway, we've got the story. The other cool part is the adventure that little Tim gets to go on with his 4-shooter. And he loves the gun right off the bat. Feels great in his hand, killing shit, shooting basically giant alligators.
Yeah.
Terrifying scene when he was mesmerized by Dark Tinkerbell. But
Right.
she was evil. Evil Tinkerbell luring with her small little naked body, luring this little kid out into the swamp.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I'd probably fall for that too.
Damn, she got nice tits.
I think pretty much. I think pretty much every
probably, but it's gonna be worth it.
pretty much every straight dude would be in deep trouble if we got that trick pulled on us.
I know.
Little flying Tinkerbell flying around. Come here, follow
Yeah.
me.
That's why. See, that's why lesbians are the smart ones. They get to enjoy the female body, but they're not as dumb as we are.
Oh man.
If Manny was here, he'd be giving you a high five, Brett. So I'll just
It's three
there
of
you
them.
go. Yeah, there you go.
No, Manny wouldn't be high fiving that. He'd be like, "What are you talking about? I'm smart."
Yeah, that's true.
I have
He
to
would
know
be.
what's up.
Yeah. But alas, Eam the Dream is not here, and therefore we can poke fun at him.
Yeah. Why can't he answer any of his messages?
Yeah. He's clearly busy winding through the keyhole.
Yeah, it's just blowing up with grinder requests.
Oh God, this podcast went down a dark alley.
His phone registers 8.3 on the Richter scale whenever he turns notifications on.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I did like the adventure. I like the swamp people that he meets first. The fact that he barely survives on a dragon's head. Mm-hmm. Speaking of dragon, obviously his Ross, quote unquote, got burned by a dragon. Shoots alligators in the head, likes it. Commands the swamp people to give him fresh fruit and a boat as they dig spiders
Man, I
out
really
of
like
their
the swamp
pussy
people.
sores. They were cool.
They
Yeah.
were like
Yeah.
super chill and like nice, and
They
they
were.
could read minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that had something to do with Ka or not. But they were definitely making some mental connections.
Yeah.
Sure.
They'd be looking at Ben, they'd be like, I'm getting, where did that little fairy go?
Dude, to tie that into another King work, all of those swamp guys had The Shining.
Oh.
The
What?
mental telepathy in The Shining.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what Scatman Crothers called it, The Shining.
The Shining.
We have a few characters that have the shine in these books, actually.
Did I ever tell you I went to that hotel?
Oh, shit. Is that
Yeah.
really in Colorado?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's in oh my gosh, I'm blanking.
Boulder?
Estes Park.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Dude,
Yeah,
that's
it's really cool.
damn.
Do you get any
Did
weird
you go
vibes?
inside the
No, it was just
hotel,
cool.
Brett?
He stayed
Yeah,
there.
yeah, we stayed there.
Oh,
We stayed
my
there on the way
God.
when I was going out to LA.
Wow, that's crazy, dude.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of The Shining, that is a book we have to do because I love the movie, but Stephen King
Hated it. I know.
And I haven't
the
read
movie's
the book.
so good though.
I haven't read the book yet, so I'm kind of curious to.
Yeah.
to do that, and then we should do a podcast on
Yeah.
the book and the movie.
I'm
Agreed.
glad I saw the
know
movie
that it-
first because
Yeah.
if reading the book would have made me hate that movie, I'd be
Yeah.
so disappointed because I
Now,
love that movie.
What I've read is that it's something minor, actually, that Stephen King hates, but in Stephen King's opinion, it's extremely critical.
Oh.
Oh, I know what it is.
And that's it.
Oh.
It's not like because Stephen King doesn't really give a shit usually when they like change story plot points and stuff.
when you change intention
But
and
there's
tone
an
and
intention
yeah.
thing that goes with it, and that for whatever reason irritated him. Now I don't know that for a fact. That's just what I read a few
Right,
places.
yeah.
But it'd be pretty cool to do that.
But
Yes, I
If
agree.
you're talking about the main character, Jack,
yeah, it was about the
But
writer dad. It
is
was
supposed
about
to be like driven insane by the house. Like he starts out normal and then
yeah,
he becomes insane. But in the movie, he's like
already kind of
already crazy.
Yeah.
I kind of felt like he was maybe
Well,
not by
we'll
the
have to
hotel or
look
whatever,
into
but I
this
felt
when
like
we
he
do that
increasingly got.
podcast.
But I
Yeah,
did
well,
read that.
I read
think
that, yeah.
That's what it was.
we'll
I
look
definitely
into it.
know Kubrick had an interesting mind,
Yes.
so I could see how he could potentially take something in a different direction.
I
you
agree
know?
as well. But that doesn't make it a bad movie. It just pissed Stephen King off.
Right.
But that doesn't, whatever. We'll have that conversation when we do that. But,
Right.
But
yeah.
but anyway, I did like the path that the kid in, and we got to meet quote unquote Merlin.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a really interesting scene.
Yeah.
When he got to the end, I did not think that line was gonna be Merlin.
Well, it was
Right.
a tiger.
Oh,
Even though he
tiger.
was on
Oh.
path of the cat, but it's supposed to be kind of like path of the lion,
No.
or it's a tiger. But in this case, it's a
it's a
I
tiger.
think the guardian of the beam on the other end is probably a lion, similar to the bear.
And
Because
didn't they
ta-
say that the lion's name was Aslan?
Yeah,
or
they
whatever?
did. Yeah.
Is that the same Aslan?
It's a
from,
shout
like-
out to Narnia.
I think
Lion,
so,
Witch in
yeah.
the Wardrobe.
It's a shout out to Narnia, 100%.
Yeah.
See, I wasn't sure because I always assumed that was from Narnia, from Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. But then when I saw him reference it, I was like, oh, did the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe reference it from something else?
King was a big fan of Tolkien and C.S. Lewis. So
Oh, yeah?
I think that he was just giving a little minor shout out to C.S.
I can see
Not
that,
confirmed, folks. Just my thought, but
I think it's so funny how Tolkien and C.S. Lewis are like so different,
yeah.
and they were best friends, but they were not best friends, but they were friends.
Yeah, they were
They would
friends.
always argue about whose style of writing was better because they both thought that the other one like wasn't as
They
good,
had
right?
the total opposite.
They had total
Total
opposite.
opposite.
But yet, in modern day, I would say most people that like one also like the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is weird to me. I think
You
that's
just
so
can't
interesting.
read them right after each other because one of them has every single detail on every single description of every rock that
They come across.
Frodo passes.
Yeah.
And then the other one, C.S. Lewis writes so abstract
Yeah.
that you feel like you're reading a Bible story. Literally, it's like colorful and ambiguous, and
But he
there's
was very
zero
religious,
detail.
right? So that
Yeah.
kind
They
of makes
both
sense.
are religious.
Well,
Were they both?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know the not Tolkien, but the other author.
C.S.
C.S.
Lewis.
Lewis was religious.
He-
Yeah.
He's like super religious, right?
And
Into it,
Tolkien
that
is
just puts
religious
a
too,
lot,
though.
yeah.
They were both religious, but and that's why CS has more, I think, religion baked into his story,
Right.
but super abstract.
Yeah.
Just no, like I remember reading that, and I was like, I felt like I just like when you look at abstract art,
Yeah.
that's like what I felt like I read. Still great stories, though.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I love the movies.
yeah,
I
so
gotta
I
read
like
the
those
books.
little
I've never
shout outs.
read the books.
I really like
Yeah.
because Stephen King, I think, is going to be for a very long time a very unique and renowned author. Obviously,
Oh my god,
Yeah.
I know. He's
but it's
fantastic.
It's really cool to see Stephen King do a shout out to like these guys or Edgar Allan Poe or
Yeah.
whoever, because you get to see like this chain of influence. And then when we read back to these other guys, these old guys, you
Yeah.
know, we
I don't
read
think-
Sherlock Holmes and we read, Edgar Allan and we read all these guys. It's like
I don't think
a lot
there's
of fun.
many masters of any craft that aren't well versed in many different styles of their craft. You know what I
Agree.
mean? I think
Yeah.
I would be willing to bet that Stephen King probably reads quite broadly and quite often.
He's
you know?
actually in his autobiography
Mm-hmm.
/ writing book, which is amazing. he talks a lot about his past, and he says he's always reading one book
Right.
and listening to
And
another.
listening to another, yeah.
Why can't you be doing both? Because when you're in the car, you should be doing that, or when
Yeah.
you're wherever.
Yeah.
And now that things like Audible have taken off, and everybody, I mean, just the amount of reading that
Still
we
open
can,
for sponsorship, Audible.
yeah, Audible. All of the reading that we can do, especially for guys like us, where we're busy, man. We've got jobs for doing all this shit, but we love reading, and,
Right.
and we used to have to just read slow,
Right.
or not read at all, or we
Yeah.
would lose sight of it. Now we get to do laundry /read,
I know.
drive /read.
I still need to get a
Which
little
is
bit better
amazing.
at it. As you guys can tell, I miss a lot of details, but
It comes with time,
yeah,
and practice.
But what I was going to say is, it definitely seems like he reads very broadly, and I think that he saw this. I mean, I'm sure he injects a lot of what he loves into everything. Every
Yeah.
artist does that, but I think that the uniqueness of this story and how the worlds cross over really gave him a platform, a canvas to be able to be like, well, that's a thing I love, and that's
Yeah.
a thing I love, and that's a thing I love, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
The cool thing is that they talk about Merlin in all these books. Pretty much all the Dark Tower books, he's mentioned here and there as like this old badass wizard.
Right.
Some people confuse him with being the Dark Wizard, aka Walter Dim, aka the Man in Black, aka Evil Fuckhead.
Flag.
I was gonna say the Crimson King.
They would call the Wanderer, Randall Flagg, all of them. Basically, they would mix him up with Merlin because some people thought that Merlin turned dark,
Yeah.
but Merlin wasn't. He's
Yes.
actually good,
Yeah.
but was just another powerful wizard, which was kind of cool to actually meet him.
But considering this is when Roland was young,
Well, the story of the Wind Through the Keyhole wasn't, though. That was so long ago that.
well,
Yeah.
considering that that's like way back,
Right.
it still could be maybe that
What?
he is
Alive.
corrupted.
I don't think so.
No.
Based
No.
on this story, it seemed to indicate. Now we don't know if this story is fact, though. It's just a fairy tale or a story. But it sounded to me like he was still good but retired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we don't really know what happened with that. So he could be corrupted. Who knows?
So-
but
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm thinking he did not become corrupted. I think he's just is retired. He might still be alive,
Yeah.
but
Just seems weird to be a retired wizard.
well, what made me think
Okay.
that this story actually happened was, like you said, the taxman
yeah, the
is actually
Covenant Man.
Walter, who
Walter O'Dim.
owed
yeah.
them, and he got
The Man in Black.
like put into this fairy tale
Yeah.
from like 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
We don't know how long, because there's a story of the kid who became the gunslinger,
Mm-hmm.
and they all know it, but they don't know if it actually happened.
Yeah.
But the taxman is still there.
He's still
Walter.
there.
So
So
this
he has a
actually makes me
presence.
think of something. I don't know if any of you guys have seen Lost. Have any of you watched
No.
Lost?
No.
The first
I
two
haven't.
seasons only.
So there's a character in Lost. I forget his name, but basically he like doesn't age, and he's kind of used on the island as like a person to like carry out tasks for like the main guy, and it kind of seems like that's what the Man in Black is.
That is literally what he is.
And
He
the thing
seems
that I
to-
think is interesting is that in Lost anyway, later on, you start realizing that even though this is like the main guy's like right-hand man that's been kept alive for all this time, he really doesn't know what's going on either completely. And there's times where he loses faith and he's kind of in the dark, and I'm wondering if like the Man in Black later on is going to be kind of just like used and abused and, you know, kind of on the wrong side of things as well.
We'll have to we'll have to see. That's for sure. I will say that it was really cool to read him in this book.
Yeah.
And then right before this, when we were coming through the Winnie in the previous book, before we went to Roland's Past, they were in Kansas, and it was the Kansas from the book The Stand, which is another book we need to do at some point.
Interesting.
And the good old Walter O'Dim they run into with TikTok in that Kansas
Oh, the TikTok man.
is the Walter O'Dim of The Stand. Wow. Not of their own book, but the same motherfucker doing the shit that he's doing
Huh.
across the universe. That bastard. And that is super interesting. And so when I read that, I'm like, oh, reading that after The Stand gives me a different perspective of when you're reading certain scenes and good old I forget what his name is in that, but that asshole disappears for a little while. Maybe he disappeared to Oz temporarily with TikTok. Who knows?
I got a little bit. This is completely. Anybody have something else to say on
No.
that? Because this is changing directions.
Let's change it. I'm sorry,
but
to take
I want to
you
say
down
it
like
because I keep forgetting to say it. But so I have a little bit of a theory, or at least a thought, and I want to know what you guys think. So somewhere in this fairy tale, The Wind Through the Keyhole, I believe. I don't think it was on the Roland side of the story. Somebody mentions that. I think the guy the Covenant man is working for is trapped on the top floor of the tower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So to me, it seems like he's manipulating things to have the tower destroyed potentially because he just wants all existence destroyed because he's sick of being.
Yeah, my
captured
understanding,
or something
and I
like
don't know
that.
this for fact, but from what we've read to this point, they kind of say that they think he's doing something negative in the tower to decay it so that he could control its remaking or something like that.
Oh, is that what it was? See, I was thinking that possibly he was
I don't
just
know that
trying.
that's fact at all.
I thought maybe
I'm
he was just using the Man in Black to get people to do things that are eventually going to lead to the tower's destruction.
Yeah. No, I think that you're
So
right
that
there.
he can
I
just
think so.
not be captured anymore.
I
Like he
agree.
doesn't care if he doesn't exist. He just wants to
Oh.
not be captured.
Like he's actually trapped there versus choosing to stay there.
Right,
trying to
right.
be
That's what
down.
I thought for a minute.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I certainly can't remember, but I do know that up to this point, they say that he's definitely using people like the
Definitely doing
Man in
something.
Black
Yeah.
to expand his influence to the physical realms
Right.
outside of the
Yeah.
tower because he is in the tower.
Yeah.
Right.
But
And
he also is trapped. But I felt like he wants to be there
Okay.
nonetheless.
I felt
But
that
you
way
felt it
as
was kind of
well.
like his
Yeah.
palace.
yeah.
Well, I think
But-
he's trying
yeah.
to basically infiltrate it, take it
Yeah.
over,
Yeah.
which must take time, I guess.
I also think it's interesting because they kind of say that like every single floor of the tower is like a different world. So
Yeah.
like our world is a floor of the tower, right?
In a way.
In a way.
But not in a way.
But like if
too.
he's trapped there, it could just be a full universe that he's trapped in.
Yeah, it's really
It's
strange.
really weird and
because
abstract.
I get the feeling that the tower is kind of like that.
Yeah.
But maybe more like every rose outside of the tower as representative of a universe.
Right.
But there's not a real concrete way that it's linked right now.
Right.
So we just know that they're somehow linked and there's
Somehow
different
linked,
levels
yeah.
and it. You know, we just don't know. Kind of like the real universe.
Right.
So.
Yep.
You know.
But Merlin did say, I think it was Merlin, who said like the Covenant man's gonna get punished for letting me free.
Yeah.
Even though he's trapped there, he can still.
He's gonna get punished by his boss.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
he
then
did
that
say
happened.
that. Because
Good.
you know, basically what it was Covenant Man has hobbies and he likes to screw around with people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he screwed around with the kid and it didn't get the dice didn't roll.
Yeah.
his
It
way.
didn't turn out in his.
And then
favor.
he's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have been fucking around near
Yeah.
good old Merlin's cage. He was supposed to be there until he died. Oh shit."
Yeah.
Oh
The
shit.
kid should have died like so many times.
Yeah.
But he just rolled 20s the whole way through.
Yeah, he did.
Ah, baby. Ah.
To put it in
Yeah.
D&D terms.
Yeah, man. He just freaking rolled 20s. He dodged the dragon, shot the alligators, passed out at the right second, realized the right things. What about
Made
the
it over
fucking
that
tentacle
bridge.
thing at the waterfall? The
Yeah.
bridge? Oh my god, dude. He was just kind of like, I'm just going to go over the base. Gets in there, and then this thing's like... It's like, that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, how many close calls?
Bypass
my God,
that.
man.
I know.
Lethal threat. There was one section, well, right in this section, there was one part where I was kind of confused because I was listening to it while I was working out and I kind of got a little distracted with other stuff. But at one point, the swamp people give little Tim a device and it's
Yes.
talking to him like Siri.
Oh, dude, we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dude,
Oh,
I was just
yeah.
picturing. I couldn't, like, I didn't get any clear distinction of what this thing looked like. So I was literally just picturing Tim walking around with an iPhone, and
It was like a little little
Like,
disc.
okay.
It was
Yeah.
basically like a little disc,
Yeah.
and it was essentially a navigation device with AI in
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
From
And they had been
Positronics.
saving it for a long time from Positronics, and he woke it up, And because it was AI, it kind of became his friend, but it had special restrictions
Yeah.
that basically, in the end, I can't believe we didn't even talk about this,
Yeah.
but I say she only because of
Female voice.
female voice, but basically she kind of dies out, malfunctions because she gives Tim too much information.
Yeah.
Was it
So,
about Directive 19, which was Merlin, I guess?
Yeah, I think so.
yeah.
Well,
That
actually, I
and the
think
Stock Blast.
yeah,
Like, she
Directive
wouldn't
9
like mention it by name.
Yeah.
It's like, you need to find cover.
She kept
It was
talking
like-
about Directive
and-
19. That was like...
Yeah.
it was more to it. I don't know all of it. Like I'd have to think and look into this more. But it was partially the Stark Blast, which Stark Blast only come down the path of the beam because of the way the beam is. Then also Directive 19 was where Merlin was trapped. There was dark magic there, and it was like some kind of an electronical headquarters of the beam. But it wasn't an endpoint. It wasn't where Aslan was. And so I almost wonder, and also remember 19 has already had relevance to us, like in Gunslinger.
shit!
And,
Ask me about
number
19.
19.
Yeah.
and it had to do with another, like World of the Dead or something like that. It had to do with,
I also think that it's kind of interesting that she was able to go against
Her
her programming.
Yeah.
But rather than having it restrict her from it, she was actually able to make a decision to sacrifice herself
Yeah.
to go against it.
Yeah.
So like it like shut her down or whatever if she did it, but she was still able to do it,
Yeah.
which
Got
I
out
think
in
is kind of
time,
interesting.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
awesome.
it is interesting.
That's not like
It's
an...
kind of like Blaine.
Yeah, Blaine.
Yeah.
The same thing happened to Blaine.
Blaine
Yeah.
was
That
trying to
chicken, like-
answer those goddamn riddles, even though he was
like the
frying
jokes,
his brain.
like fried his veins, but he
Yeah.
still did it.
Yeah.
somehow.
It's kind of interesting. I wonder if this links up to any kind of perspective that Stephen King has on future AI.
Right.
You know, but anyway.
I mean, to me, it feels like that if you're making a true AI,
Yeah.
it would have to have some type of at least illusion of choice, just like humans do. You know, and you have to suffer the consequences of that choice, but you can't be kept from making that choice.
Pretty
you know?
interesting, yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. I thought.
I felt a little
Yeah.
bad for her.
Yeah.
but,
Too. It's like, she died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She fried herself.
Like all the poor
saving
robots
little Timmy.
in that world.
And then Timmy's final test was instead of shooting the tiger, he had to just chill with it.
Yeah.
He opened the cage.
Yeah.
That's crazy to think about that. He has his gun ready.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not gonna shoot you.
He's like, hey, we're both gonna die, or
Right. Right.
we're both gonna live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the tiger made the right choice.
Yep.
It's like what's that one game show where they either both take it or none of them takes it?
Oh,
Takes the money. It's like
what is
that.
that was like a good example of one of those like no sum games or whatever. Where
Yeah.
they like are playing to.
You're talking about like
Yeah, like
Jackbox
that.
TV?
Yeah, oh god. Yeah, good old Jackbox TV, baby.
Or if nobody takes the money, you all die.
Yeah.
If everybody takes the money, you all die. But if only one person takes the money, they get the money. So somebody has
Yep.
to say no. But usually that person gets fucked over.
I know. And it's always the nice
Right.
one, like Lisa.
Right?
Just take the money.
Right.
Dude, it's funny because and then he rides away on that basically a magic tablecloth.
Coffee.
Yeah. A magic carpet.
Tablecloth. It's like a white sheet.
Yeah.
It's like a napkin.
It's a napkin. And
Magic
that's
tablecloth
doubles.
It's
I
a
want that
whole
napkin.
new world that got obliterated by a Stark blast.
Don't you dare close your eyes.
Oh
Look at the dead dragon and the dead swamp people.
no! When you get
The
back
dead
to the
trees.
palace, your
The
stepdad's gonna
world's
strangle
moved
you.
on.
Oh God!
Yeah. Super interesting. And then obviously we figure out the situation we were talking about early. Big Kel gets axed in the back of his head from Mom,
Yes.
who does in fact get the eye drops.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting that like Merlin just knew, like he could see the future.
Yeah.
Like you need to do this, and he didn't tell you that if you don't, you're gonna die. Because if he didn't give the axe to his mom, he would have been choked to death.
Yeah.
But he did, and his mom saved him. And got rid of Big Kellos.
I like the fact that Merlin told him that like 3 times. Like, give your mom the eye drops, give her the axe. In that order, do not forget that. And then he like told her he told little Tim like 2 other times, don't forget that.
Yeah.
It's extremely important that you do not forget that. So I was glad that definitely paid off. And that Tim actually followed orders.
Give her the damn axe. Yeah. And there must be like some kind of an unwritten rule about how much they can intervene. Like he could tell him, but he couldn't tell him why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He couldn't say, or else.
Right.
You're screwed, little guy.
Right.
But anyway, then we get back to good old Roland, who finished the story. And he brings the salt miners into the kid. And he also, just in time, paid that guy an obnoxious amount of money to give him some silver bullets.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
The blacksmith. Yeah.
I love how he bribed him. He's like, I can't do that. I'll, whatever. And then he gives him all this gold, and he's like, I'll risk burning the whole goddamn town.
That was awesome.
Screw the town. It's dying anyway. I'll burn it all down. Whatever.
Which is interesting because it brings you back to the whole werewolf thing, even
Yeah.
though he's not technically a
Skinwalker
werewolf, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and at that point, he was like turning into a snake, right?
Yeah.
Didn't it get
When
one of
he-
the deputies, or am I crazy?
It bit one of the
Don't even
deputies and killed him. One of the kind of the mouthy
What
one.
a loudmouth asshole.
Yeah.
Karma, bitch.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody deserves to die for being a fucking smart
Yeah.
ass.
That's true. But anyway, it's a book.
Yeah. And
He's fake,
and
so
he
he
does
can die.
he does eat the old miner too, which is really brutal. I felt bad for the old
Oh,
miner
yeah.
because he
Oh,
suddenly
yeah.
like decided to take responsibility for all the other miners. And
Yeah.
he like stepped up and he's like, "It was you all along. How dare you go against the miner code or something?" And it's like, "Oh, dude, this poor bastard's gonna die."
He had to do one good thing, and then he got
Yeah.
for rolling.
No
gun to
good
down.
deed goes unpunished.
Except in his case.
Yeah, and then we go back to our quartet posse, who are now walking along the path of the beam again, on our way to Wolves of the Kala,
Wolves of the Kala, yeah.
which is next. Yeah, right there.
Look at this 1980s looking artwork.
Yeah, I do remember really liking Wolves of the Kala, specifically because good old Father Callahan makes a reappearance.
Ooh, from Salem's Lot.
Those of you who like Salem's Lot.
There's so much paper in this book, it can be used as a paperweight.
Yeah, this book, I don't know if you can tell, folks, it gets a little longer.
They chopped down an
It's quite a bit
entire
longer.
iron tree from the Endless Forest for that book.
Not quite as big as this
Yeah.
bad boy, though. This is like a full
Yeah.
encyclopedia.
Yeah, Wolves of the Kala is not, you're right, it's not,
Ooh, a picture.
it's
in the middle.
not little,
One picture. Nice.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, there's-
Spoiler alert, don't show that.
There's a few pictures in here, actually, which are pretty dope. But yeah, it's not quite as big as Oathbringer, but it's still a monster.
Yeah.
And
I'm excited.
And actually, the cool thing about this is, I remember this was at the end of Wizard and Glass, but he published Wolves of the Kala and Song of Susanna in the same year,
Really?
Oh, awesome.
early in the year and end of the year.
This is a
He was
little
on
bitty
a
one.
rampage that year.
This could have been part of the same book.
He
I
said,
bet he wrote it at the same time. He just split it.
yeah. So what
This
happened
looks like
is,
less than Wizarding, or... no,
Yeah,
it's
shorter.
about the same as Went Through the Keyhole.
but he basically said like he was the reason he took a long hiatus in between 2 and 3. Oh no, it was 3 and 4.
Yeah.
3 and 4 after Blaine, he just like quit. He's like, I couldn't do it yet. It just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And then after he did Wizard and Glass, it was all there. So it was pumping out.
Sweet.
So I think after that, it was coming fast paced. But
Nice.
I don't know what the gap was between Song of Susanna and the final, The Dark Tower. But it's going to be cool. I'm looking
Yeah, I
forward
can't
to
wait.
it, man.
I'm excited to get back to, hopefully get back to, I don't know, but I'm assuming
assuming
get
that's
back
the
to our
story.
content.
Oh yeah, we're all back to quartet
Good.
zone. I do know that. We're
Good.
now we're quartetting to the end. So I'm pretty sure. I think we got most of the. I mean, there's still stories.
Yeah. I mean, as
and,
long
dude,
as I don't care how many times we go back in time, as long as we're returning to our content.
in my opinion, I'm not going to say anything about it, but one of the creepiest scenes in the entire series is in Wolves of the Collar.
Oh yeah.
And it's actually a story. It's not happening live. It's a story. But I remember thinking, like, I was reading it, and then I was going to bed, and I'm kind of like, oh, dang. If I remember correctly. It's been a long time, but if I remember correctly, I was like, yeah, I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
So,
Good night.
we didn't take any Brett bets. Should we take any?
I didn't. Really
I think
have any
everyone
this
agreed
one,
on the
'cause it's
Brett
like-
bet that the ferryman was not gonna make it.
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll ever figure that out.
Yeah.
We'll have to.
Yeah.
We'll have to tweet Stephen King and say,
Yeah.
"Did the ferryman make it?"
We got a Brett bet.
Stephen King,
all right, here we
will
go.
just tweet us back #no.
What do you think?
Hashtag
So
No.
let's actually do that tweet as we release this episode. When we
We'll see
release
if he
it,
responds.
and we'll see if he responds. If not, here's the deal: it's a group bet. We all said that we don't think he did,
Yeah.
and so we'll all take the consequences whether he does or doesn't. And then if Steven ignores us, we will take it as.
We'll have to take it as if we won because most likely he's dead.
Okay.
Well, how about this? Well, if he doesn't respond, we'll do a separate poll, and you guys can respond. Do you think he's alive? Or
That's a
dead?
great idea.
And
man.
whoever
We'll do a
wins
live
the poll will be the winner of the bet bet.
That
All right.
sounds good. That
But
sounds
they're
good.
all gonna bet for us to lose.
Maybe.
control
And then
Hopefully,
if we lose, we need to go to an adult store and ask for a diddle stick.
a diddle stick and
I need
a
a
pumpkin.
diddle stick.
Do you guys have any diddle sticks, popkins from North Central Positronics?
They'll be like, yeah, this is a porn store. They'll all
No,
around
yeah.
you.
You have to go into an adult store. You have to ask if they carry diddle sticks and also where you could get the nearest, most tasty popcorn.
All right, I'll do it.
It's,
Hey,
it's
you got-
a deal, but we all have to say it at the same time.
No.
And then I'll record
We
myself
gotta do
doing
it.
it.
We'll record them all individually. That's a better
All
way.
right.
Yeah.
So we gotta go in and you gotta be like, hey, do you guys carry diddle sticks? When they say no, what's a diddle stick? Like, never mind. Do you know where I could buy the tastiest popkin? That'll be it.
Aisle 4. Then I'm gonna be like,
Whoa, popkins are real? Shit.
We need to find out what the other word for it is too.
yeah, we gotta
diddle
find out what the
stick,
actual
yeah.
word, the long
We'll have
stick
to
or
look
whatever.
that
Yeah.
up. Manny, aka Ian the Dream,
like-
you have an
Yeah,
assignment, you bastard.
Even though he's not here, we'll give him homework.
Yeah, get the homework.
He probably has a couple.
He's getting pulled in anyway.
All right, I've got just a swig left.
I got-
so let's
I got
kill
nothing.
this. Oh.
He's like, well, mine's called the Big Jim.
Dude. All right, guys. Well, cheers with our empty glasses, except for me. I'm going to finish it right here, and we'll see you again next. We'll be talking
Wolves of the Kala.
Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Lit Literature. If you liked us, please check out our social media at Lit Literature 1 at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't hesitate to join in on the conversation. We appreciate the conversation, the questions, book recommendations, anything of that sort. Join in right on the social media websites. And don't forget to check us out at our website, litliterature.com, and our upcoming projects, though there aren't many now besides Lit Literature, you can find at lyket.net, Lyket. We do have a Patreon account, but if you truly want to support us, please like and share. Cheers.